Oh my gosh, but I can see you. I could put sunglasses on, but that would be frightening. I know, but you don't even know what I look like right now, man. Oh my dog.
Oh, really?
No, it's not. I was gonna say like in the trunk of the car, but it might be the wrong image.
So yeah, just here with Christine, and Christine is not wanting to join the video conference. I guess unless she gets sunglasses. Are you gonna get
Yeah,
sunglasses?
if
It's the
I
actual
was,
thing.
I look
I,
You
so
I
know,
do actually
terrible
like
right
talked
now,
about
people.
this whole video versus non-video, and I said it's because I don't like to wear clothes when I work in my home office. So maybe it isn't sunglasses. I don't know.
Brian,
Oh, guys.
I sent you the link if you want to join in on the Zoom call.
I can do that.
Okay.
Oh, people, I look so bad.
Hey,
Like,
Christine,
not showered and red face.
if you don't want to join the video, that's more than fine.
Just ask her if she's wearing any.
I am wearing clothes, whatever. I can't even see without glasses on. Holy crap. I'm
She's
looking at
shy.
myself. I'm looking at myself and I'm going,
You know what I find amazing is as I'm going more in depth into your profile, like the amount of experience and different types of jobs around IoT and hardware and software companies, and I find it pretty impressive, Christine.
aw, that is so nice of you
Let's
to
see. So
say.
you started out at Siemens for a few years, then you went to work at SICK, the sensor company,
I did. I did.
and then transitioned into Transition Networks for a few years.
Yeah, that was my big leap into the as I call it the cement chasm between IT and OT. Uh,
Oh, okay.
yeah, so they were an IT company trying to get into the industrial world, and they needed someone who actually could speak the language.
Oh, so you came from the industrial, the OT side of the world, kind of like how I did.
Absolutely. So I've actually have a further back history than Siemens, but I don't put it on my LinkedIn just because then it shows my age. We don't want to do that. As
Oh
women,
wow.
we don't like to talk about our age all the time.
So this is just a snippet, but look at all the experience you have. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. So, I started out in factory automation and process control, but I did it
okay.
a little backwards than a lot of people did. I started out actually working for a distributor way back in the day, and the owner of the company said to me, don't go get your engineering degree right away. Just go to school for fluid power. It covers mechanical, electrical, and then pneumatics. And I said, okay. And he goes, no, I'm serious. So I went and got my degree in fluid power first, which, like I said, covers mechanical, electrical, and pneumatics. And it really gave me the basis of where I am today to really understand how equipment's put together, how all the different pieces all fit. And it really gave me a good understanding of not just the theoretical side of engineering, but really how you apply it. And the other cool thing was I got to work with all guys all the time, which was kind of fun because I'm kind of a guy girl. I'm not a girl girl. Well, I'm a girl, but yeah,
Yeah, I
I
get it.
like I like hanging out with dudes. I don't know why, because you can say whatever you want and they don't judge you.
Hmm. This is interesting. So speaking of judging, what would you say about the women in tech, women in engineering, and about that issue in general?
Yeah, it's funny. I would say that women in tech, it depends what tech you're talking about, right? If they're coming out of school with a PhD in IT, it's a little different than someone coming out of engineering school. And what I mean by that is they're kind of different worlds, right? And so the one tech side thinks of themselves as the leaders of business on the business side, and the other ones think about it from the practical standpoint. Both are great, and coming together right now is really important between the two sides. But what I love is watching new engineers come out of school, and the first time they step onto a shop floor, and guess what they're wearing? A skirt, high heels, and white chiffon. I don't know about but oil doesn't really mix well with that, and high heels don't do really well on catwalks. So
Yeah.
catwalks meaning over the factory or over
Okay.
the metal stairs. Yeah.
So what you're saying is naturally it's kind of like a more guy type of industry. Like, you, not to say that girls can't do it, but you can't, like you said, wear your high heels out on the factory floor.
No, and you don't want to bring your purse. It doesn't work well. Yeah, it's typically not a good thing to have your purse there either. So when I was at Siemens, I actually mentored quite a few women, and the first thing I said was learn to wear pants.
Okay. So
Yeah.
would you say that you're more respected wearing pants than like a dress, or why?
No, the reason why is because the last thing you want to do is go up over that catwalk over a turban, and people can see, yeah, down below. And not only that, but but I don't know about you, but if you wear high heels in a factory, you
Mm-hmm.
might go sliding somewhere, and so they're not real practical. And so there's these little things that people coming out of school don't recognize until they actually get into it. The first time I went onto a factory floor, or actually I went into a power plant, I actually wore the most beautiful purple suit you could ever imagine back in the day, with gold buttons. It
Okay.
was something. And I went into this power plant, and they hand me steel-toed clip clops, we called them back then, and a hard hat. And they said, okay, follow the yellow line and the guys will meet you. Okay. Didn't think anything of it. I had no idea that the yellow line was a safety barrier. So I'm following this yellow line throughout this power plant. And about 15 minutes later, all the guys come running out, and they think it's really funny. And I'm like, what's wrong? They're like, girl, did you notice that the yellow line is in front of anything that's dangerous? You would have been following that yellow line a long time. I'm like, oops. So that was my first experience. And they're like, and high heels don't really do well because we're going to take the catwalk over these turbines right now. And so I'll never forget walking up this catwalk over these turbines. And it's about a football field large and in the sky. And I'm walking with a book between my legs because there's all these people down below. Not a good thing. My second experience was wearing the same lovely purple suit with gold buttons, and I went out to a wastewater treatment plant. And they said, okay, we're going to go out over the slurry pond, and we're going to go venture out to where the drive is. And I said, okay. Well, unfortunately, the catwalk that was over the slurry pond didn't have rails on the sides, and my shoe got stuck in one of the holes. And I had two choices. I could sit down and take my shoes off and walk the rest of the way to the drive, or I was going to fall in. So my choice was to take my shoes off. And the guy goes, I don't think you'll ever wear those again. I said, probably not. So from then on, I purchased shoes with chunky heels, and I never wore a skirt. Didn't work out. So
Well, that's good, because I think we need more women like you in this space, in the industrial space, IT, OT, and so you were saying that transition networks was kind of like your first step into the IT realm, crossing over from the OT and being able to speak that language and help them with their goals
yes,
there. So
exactly. So I had worked for factory automation and process control companies my whole career. And the one thing that I recognized really fast was I didn't want to be the girl who was just walking in there with the skirt. I wanted to bring value um, to companies, and engineers want to have answers to solutions. And the only way you can do that is really by digging in, understanding their problems, and looking at them from their perspective and knowing more, right? So that you can offer benefit versus you're just the girl walking in. So the reason why I say that is because when I walked into transition networks, they were like so excited about the fact that they were bridging into industrial, but they didn't understand how to get to those markets or who to talk to or why to talk to them. And to me, that was really exciting because we hadn't really talked about IoT at that time. And that point in time, it was machine to machine, those kind of things, right? They were just
okay,
starting to talk about it M to M. And what was interesting is that switches at that time, and that's what we did, and also infrastructure, was really crossing over to both sides of the house. There were switches in the IT side, and then there were switches used for the manufacturing side, specifically around field buses and networks and transitioning to industrial Ethernet. So the reason why it was so fun was I actually got to see now what the carpet side of the house looked like. And then I
Mm,
could wear skirts, by the way. So
nice. That's cool. Yeah. So then from there you went to Advantech B&B Smartwork. I'm just looking up at your LinkedIn profile. I didn't memorize
yeah,
all this. So
no,
that's a pretty cool
absolutely.
place. One of my clients, Intellic, they actually work with the Advantech Uno. Like they're really big fans of it, especially that now that it has Ignition on board. Are you familiar with Ignition, the software product?
I am very familiar with it with the SCADA HMI platform.
Yeah, that's what my one of the things my client specializes in is Ignition and like MES integration and Industry 4.0, and that's one of the hardware that they like is the Advantech Uno because of
Yeah,
its Ignition onboard capabilities and IoT MQTT protocols. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's another interesting story, the MQTT and all the different protocols that are out there, right? So I'm like a huge super fan of OPCUA, by the way,
oh yeah, me
that you
too.
can unify all these together, right?
Oh, that's another thing. You're OPCUA evangelist from
Ooh,
this year, January till now. So is that an actual
probably
thing
longer
or
than that. It is.
pro bono? So you're on
It
the
is.
foundation, or you volunteer, or what is that?
Yeah. So Tom Burke, actually, shout out to him. Tom Burke is actually the president of the OPCUA organization. And I've known him for about 15 years because of my background in field buses, networks, and communication. And I've worked with him a lot because of Profinet. And the Profinet organization actually runs the OPCUA. OPCUA or OPC has been around for many, many years. But in the last 7 years, they've really started to transition that unified architecture to help bridge companies' protocols together. So if you've got a machine that's got Rockwell on it on one and Siemens on the other, how do they talk to each other?
Yeah.
Oh, OPCUA. So how I actually, why I do that is because Tom, well, he likes me, that's one, but we won't talk about that. He's a really cool guy. But I really believe in their message of bringing the architecture together. So I've actually sat on different panels out in the industry, whether we're talking about Industry 4.0 or IIoT or just OPCUA in general. I'm also been a big supporter of the platform for a long time. And so Tom has just asked me, you're one of my biggest supporters. I'd really like you to be an evangelist for us. So that's kind of what I do.
Cool.
And then anytime anybody asks about it, I chime up and say, I love it. I love it.
So and then your other position, you're with a company, Data RPM. You want to talk a little bit about them or what you do there?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So Data RPM is a machine learning, artificial intelligence platform for predictive maintenance that utilizes cognitive anomaly detection. Yeah, I know that's a lot of words there. Think of it this way, predictive maintenance. But what we do is we take it to the next step by utilizing machine learning and AI so that you can actually be scalable, repeatable, and automated. Um, and we're a software company. We are we're not a full solution, but we're that plug-in that everybody needs in order to get to that level of predictive maintenance that they're looking for on their assets. Um, and I am the director of partnerships and also channel. And I joined them in April of this year.
Awesome. So now I'm curious because that sounds really interesting, especially with what a lot of my viewers and what industry they do and what they do. So you said you guys are kind of a plug-in. What type of systems do you plug in with, and like what protocols do you use to interface with those systems?
Sure. So protocols don't matter to us because all we take in or what we ingest into our engine is actually time series data. So
Okay.
we build our predictions based off of history from a data historian. And so it doesn't matter how it comes in, whether that's through a data lake, which would be a database to the industrial people and a data lake to the IT guys, or a CSV file
Okay.
um, from the data historian itself. And that's actually how our solution works and what we put into our engine, what you would put into our engine in order to do those calculations and predictions. So from the standpoint of where we fit in. So if you think about Microsoft Azure and their platform, they have a machine learning portion inside of there, right?
Yeah.
But you kind of have to bake your own, meaning they give you the rules, but guess what? You go create it.
Yeah.
So what we've done is partnered with them because we are a very easy plug-in to Azure where it's already automated for you. You don't have to go and write all those rules. You don't
Okay.
have to go and be a data scientist. And we're not taking away data scientists' jobs, but what we're doing is allowing them to be better at their jobs because now they can manage what's important versus how do I do machine learning?
Okay. So this integration with Azure is in addition to your main product, or that is how your product runs, is off of Azure? Or?
We don't have to. We can also work with AWS as well. We're
Okay.
also an instance within there. Or we can run completely separate.
Cool.
But the best solutions in the ecosystem is really building out those partnerships between many different vendors, or as I call it, the village, because not everybody has a full solution. And even though Azure is a platform, they still need parts and pieces to go inside of it to make it better and
Right.
and really help their customers at the end
Okay.
of it.
Cool. Yeah. So have you worked with the system? You said you heard of Ignition. So you heard of some of the other industrial like SCADA platforms, like Rockwell has their Factory Talk, and Siemens has WinCC and Wonderware. Have you heard of those, or do you work with those platforms?
Funny you should say that. Of course. I love the guys at WinCC. Shout out to my friend, Mr.
That's right.
Black.
You used to work there.
Absolutely. So I'm a super fan there too as well. I love Siemens.
Cool.
Factory Talk, we definitely integrate into that because as you may know, a lot of the data historians actually use the back end under the covers, which is called OSI Soft, which is another one of our partners as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we connect to really anyone who's using a data historian, whether that's Wonderware's version or
Okay.
one of the OSI softs. We also work with people like Iconics.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that's another great platform or data historian that's out there too. And there's a
Yeah,
lot
yeah.
of new guys coming up as well.
Yeah, I saw the guys from Iconics at the American Waterworks Association show in Vegas this year. So that, they know my dad and stuff. It's a pretty cool little industry. So you being the director of channel and partners, who are some of your guys' partners, or who would you like to be your partners, just so we can kind of get an idea of that ecosystem that you talked about?
Yeah, we talked about from the cloud services and the storage. We're definitely partners with AWS and Microsoft Azure and their teams, as well as we're also working with smaller folks like Iconics, um, mid-sized ones like OSI Soft, but also system integrators that are out there in the world, working with a lot of consultants too, because in order to really go down the journey of predictive maintenance, there's a few things that you need to have. One is time series data, and not everybody has that. So you have to find solutions by applying a data historian. So we work with not only those partners that do that, but also consultants. And then the other thing is when you're doing predictive maintenance, you're pulling data from sensors. Well, guess what? Not every asset has sensors to monitor the health of the equipment. They may just use it for control. That always it doesn't give you a full picture of what's going on because you may not be monitoring the motor, the pump, the actuators. You maybe just have photoelectrics on there to count how many boxes go by. Well, that's not going to tell you anything. We work with different partners as well to add additional sensors or integrate their data historian, as well as all the way up to the cloud and ERP systems.
Cool.
So, yeah, but we love Siemens, and I like Azure and the guys over at AWS, but I like the little guys too.
Cool. Yeah, I'm gonna have to thank Brian Weed, because this is a wealth of information from you, and I'm not saying we're ending it here. I'm just saying, thank you, Brian. Shout out Brian for introducing us. And
Absolutely, and he's one that I want to have as a partner, by the way, because I believe
awesome,
their
yeah.
organization could really fulfill a lot of what the customers that were out there in the industry looking for.
Cool. Yeah. And you know, maybe Intelli, because that's kind of what they do too, is they're more focused on the higher level of business intelligence, like really kind of like where your OT touches your IT, like your ERP and MES systems integration. And one of the things that they also are interested in is predictive maintenance. So, you know, after this podcast, I'm going to have to reach out to them and have them learn more about this. Just to be able to, like you said, get the customer's end goal. Like, what do they want to actually accomplish, and then work backwards from there using tools like data RPM to, you know, to find those answers that they're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, the cool thing about predictive maintenance is even though it's in industrial, that's a really big word. It fits across all different types of verticals in industrial, whether that's oil and gas, water, wastewater, discrete manufacturing,
Yeah.
or you know, mobile transportation. And you know, the assets that you're managing are may be different, and but not necessarily the way that you apply predictive maintenance to, because they all still use, well, 80% of it is rotating equipment. It's pretty similar across all verticals. So that's where you're finding most of your predictions from, or your failures is going to be from that 80% of that rotating equipment. So
Mm-hmm.
or
Well,
linear.
where do you see the industry heading in the next 5 to 10 years?
Blockchain, of course. I don't know.
Blockchain.
I think that's an open-ended answer, but I really do think that, you know, if you think about blockchain from not just all the funny videos that are out there about it, but it's really one single point of truth.
Mm.
And yeah, and if
That
you
would
can
be really
utilize,
cool. Sorry to cut you off.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say it'd be really cool for traceability through manufacturer to manufacturer. So you have, you know, some supplier of a raw product, and you could track that in an open public blockchain to the different suppliers of the hundreds of different parts that, you know, gets made from that raw material, and then to different packagers. You can kind of have traceability from through organizations that normally, you know, they wouldn't share that information or not have it connected, you know. Or like
Absolutely.
health records. Obviously, that's a more easily understandable
Or the
analogy.
food supply.
Yeah, food supply. Oh, yeah. There's another perfect example. So, what else? What else about blockchain excites you?
Well, I mean, the videos are just fun to watch on the internet, you know. None of us know what it is, but it's there. Um,
Yeah.
no, really, it's a single point of truth, and you're absolutely right on the different applications that it can be applied to. I mean, if you look at our food supply and being able to trace it all the way from the field out to the market, and if there's a health scare, they can track all that, right? Um, what I mean by health scare is like E. coli or something else. They can track it all the way to the person who purchased it. I think that's interesting. Um, Beyond blockchain, I'm not doing a ton with it, but I think that
Yeah.
that's something definitely that is coming up, and a lot of information. I also think that cybersecurity companies and um, VR companies are going to start consolidating, and you're going to see more consistency across them.
Okay.
For instance, cybersecurity. I mean, right now there's I don't know how many platforms that are out there, but there needs to be some standards put in place so that everyone's utilizing the same rules and the way of looking at it. Not that they can't be creative in it, but there needs to be some things set in stone as
For
far as how you.
cybersecurity, or
Yeah, absolutely, on the industrial side, because right now there's everybody's talking a different way and how to apply it and how you would do it. Do you do it based on anomaly detection, or do you do it another way? Um, you know, they I've talked to a lot of the cybersecurity guys out there, and they each have a different way of looking at it. And I'm like,
mm-hmm.
what? And there's so many of them right now. So I think that's going to start consolidating. I think also the virtual reality and AR guys, augmented reality guys, are going to start collapsing, or not collapsing. That's the wrong word. They're going to start consolidating as well, and we're going to see in the next years um, more stable platforms, longer battery life, and the ability to really reach into an adapt and look at a machine in a way that we never did before. But some of that technology really needs to come up to speed because of the power, because of the weight, all those different things. And I think we're going to see some real winners over the next few years that are going to come out of that. And I think going to help the workforce specifically due to attrition, you need to have that ability to have people go out and fix things. When those guys are gone, how do you do that? And I think that's really going to be the platform that's going to help folks. So that's another area I think is pretty cool.
Cool. So what would you say is most challenging about your job?
Time.
How so?
The time to research enough information, the time to connect with people enough about their systems throughout the day. I would say that's the most challenging. And then also just getting the word out of what is cognitive anomaly detection versus just standard predictive maintenance. Um, but overall, I think those challenges bring with it opportunity to really influence others and show them that it's not as difficult as they make it out to be. And that if you take the time to understand what predictive maintenance can do for you and the value of it, it's no different than back in the days, as we called it, the field bus wars or the safety wars. Somebody has to start with the technology, and then it's a trickle down effect. And back in the day in field buses and also in safety, it always started out in automotive. So I think that the challenge is getting it out beyond automotive or out beyond um, some of those other areas that in the controls industry.
So getting field bus technologies out of the automotive space and into other industrials?
No. I'm sorry. That's maybe didn't come out right. No, what I mean is that back in the day when we were selling field buses and networks, the guys who latched onto it first were really the highly automated manufacturers, such as automotive, or out in some of the highly automated processes.
Refineries.
Yep, exactly. And I think it's the same thing with applying predictive maintenance. You're seeing
Got
those
it.
guys start there first,
Okay.
and it'll be a trickle down effect, right?
That makes more sense. Thank you for
Yeah.
explaining that.
Yeah.
That is interesting. What do you think about field bus networks? Are you still seeing those, or like kind of are things changing to more industrial open networks, like industrial Ethernet and protocols that are open, like MQTT versus like Profibus or
Well, there's something to be said about Profibus. They've got 3,600 gazillion installations. I mean, I don't know what it is, right? And it's still out there working in a lot of the processing plants as well as manufacturing on the discrete side. So the difference between DP and PA being process and DP
right.
being. And the thing about the industrial market is they're not subject to change like you would your PC, right? A lot of these manufacturing facilities or process control industries run equipment 30 years. So they still use field buses out there. However, the advantage of using an industrial Ethernet network now gives you the ability to have access anywhere, anytime. Doesn't matter where you are. Where you can't really do that with the field buses the same way, unless you use things like OPCUA, unify that architecture, and then bring it out. MQTT is an interesting one, but again, it's proprietary to a certain extent. So that's why I really like the fact that a lot of the unified architectures are working with them to bridge them into it so that you can use it across multiple applications and not just MQTT, because it doesn't do everything.
Right. Yeah, like one of the OPC servers I really like is Kepware, and I've had customers that needed IoT data, and so Kepware has a nice IoT plugin. You'd be able to get that data into the OPC server and then serve that to other, your SCADA application or your data historian. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm definitely, I like that concept of, a central source of data, just like blockchain, central source of, data storage.
Exactly. With rules and governance over it versus, you talked about what about these open ones. I don't know about you. I'm not a big fan of applying things off of a Raspberry Pi right away because I don't know if it's tested and proved. If there's no safety involved, okay, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
But honestly, if I'm going to be doing something that's related to keeping machines, people safe, and I need to have that, I don't know if a Raspberry Pi is going to have 32 standardized, governed function blocks built into it because, oh, that's right, I bake my own. So
Yeah.
I'm okay with it, but depending on where you're applying it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What would you say is the end, the light at the end of the tunnel of the gapping the bridge between IT and OT? But where does that land take us?
I think that, so I'm going to quote one of my guys from Honda. He said, Christine, IT and OT, it's not a marriage. And I think that both sides need to
It's a
recognize
divorce.
it's not, well, it's not a divorce, but it's a collaboration, right? And and I hate the word convergence because that sounds like something like you will assimilate. It's about collaboration and really coming together and recognizing that each player on the IT side has a purpose and the OT side. But at the end of the day, the business only cares about from the ERP all the way to the shop floor what's going on. They don't care how you two work together. So I think that the collaboration needs to come together because there's a lot of practices on both sides that benefit each other.
Yeah.
One, the overall business and
Right.
being able to have insight to that business.
I I think that's funny. I mean, I definitely, obviously I can agree that having them collaborate and work together makes sense from a business perspective. But I mean, it's kind of weird that it started out as operational technology and information technology. I think that's because they kind of came on at different times. But like, why is it now two different departments and not just one department, like technology? It spans information, data, and control and automation. They're like all the layers of the system, right? So instead of like coming from it from two perspectives and trying to collaborate, work together, like have it just be one party.
And
then,
it's interesting you say that. You're seeing that in some organizations where a controls engineer is now the CTO, right? The chief technology officer, but he knows both sides.
right.
You're seeing that more and more. It's not just a CTO is an IT guy anymore. It could be from both sides of it. I agree with you. I think that is one of the problems, right? You're still segmenting them each out as separate entities within an organization, and there really needs to be a little more blurred lines. But saying that at the same time, there are times that controls engineers actually know how the equipment works. And sometimes an IT guy thinks he can solve the problems, but he doesn't understand actually how a PLC works or how control works.
Yeah.
And so what I always say is not all ones and zeros are created equal.
Yeah, no, definitely. And there's probably some control engineers that probably shouldn't be managing a Microsoft domain. I mean, yeah, there's still going to be different areas. I mean, I guess, that makes sense. It's kind of like this is the general area that touches information technology. This is the general area in things that touch operational technology, like a PLC, like an OPC server, like SCADA software. So, yeah, that's pretty interesting. Tell me about Christine Frank Advisory Services. You still do that?
I do. So
yeah, tell me what you do for your consulting.
So I'm not consulting in the current moment, but because I've been reorganized many times, I have to find ways to do other things. And so over the years, I've helped out industrial companies really set the stage of how they launch a product or bridge them into new markets. Most recently, I worked with a company called M87. It's a pretty cool company. They build a wireless solution that actually is dynamic in their approach. And what I mean by that is they build a software solution to extend the distance of your wireless on any radio technology. It's really cool because if you go into a factory, there's a lot of barriers in that factory for Wi-Fi or cellular and all that, right? So they can actually take that network and extend it on the distance and also the amount of data that can be passed over it.
Cool.
And why that's important is because I believe that that next level of connectivity is really going to be more and more wireless. And so if you can't see things through a cement wall because your signal doesn't go far enough, that's a great way of doing it. Or say you have cellular routers in there, but you're not actually going outside of a factory. They can actually use that hardware still and have a network inside of that factory that's using those cellular routers or other things to connect to each other in a dynamic mesh, which is pretty cool. So that's
Cool.
one that's one
And
of the things I
they're
was doing.
focused on the industrial space, or?
They do, and pretty neat group of guys. They're out of they're up in outside of Washington area. I can't remember the city right now.
So
Bellevue.
would you help them do?
Yeah, so what I did is I really helped them find specific manufacturers, which I can't name any of them, to embed this solution into it.
Oh,
And
cool.
it's going to take a lot of the controller guys to that next level for wireless that
Awesome.
they weren't able to do before.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, so I still do that, and people still call me up and ask me to help them. I've done a lot of marketing and positioning and really go-to-market strategies for folks over the years, specifically who aren't necessarily identified as industrial, but want to understand how to approach that market.
Sorry, I got something in my eye. So, I gotta ask, what does WW stand for in your job at Hewlett Packard? Director
Yeah,
of
that was
WW?
worldwide. Worldwide.
Oh, okay. I should know. WWW, Worldwide IoT Industry Partnerships and Alliance. Yeah, so it seems like you are really the IoT and predictive analytics, big data, guru, really. I'm so pleased to have had the chance to talk to you.
Well, I'm pleased to have the chance to talk to you as well. I mean, I don't know if I'm a guru, but I'm definitely interested in the area and I enjoy it. You know, I think what's fun, just like when I started out in field buses and safety controls, is it's that next step to really giving a manufacturer or a process guy the ability to take better action and make better decisions. And I think that's the same thing with IoT, right? Or IIoT or Industry 4.0. Um, it's a great time to be in this industry right now, and there's so many things happening. And I like being on the cutting edge, or some would say the bleeding edge, right?
So, we've kind of talked a lot about industry and stuff. What do you like to do outside of work?
Well, I have children, just like
Okay.
you. However, I don't have them doing finger painting anymore. My children are in college as well as getting ready to go to college. My husband and my family, we really like water sports. So we like to go boating and all the good stuff we do here in Minnesota.
Wakeboard, water ski.
I'm too old for that, but I did it one time.
Okay.
I personally liked wakeboarding better than anything, but I can't do that anymore. Yeah. Um, so where else do I spend my time? I'd like to say I'm a social do-gooder, but I can't tell you anything right now that I'm doing, unfortunately.
Yeah. Do you go to church or involved there, or?
I'm married to my husband might get mad. I'm married to a Jew and I wasn't born that way. So the religion thing isn't really in our repertoire of things that we do, but
When you say you weren't
really
born that way, like you weren't born Jewish, or you weren't born
exactly.
religious, or what would you call yourself?
What would I call myself? An open-minded individual that believes everyone deserves respect and we should all help each other. The one thing I got to say that I miss more than anything when I was growing up is the sense of community.
Mm-hmm.
And even though we're all connected, we're not as connected as we were even in our communities. And that's kind of profound, but it's kind of true.
Say that again.
And I said it's kind of profound, but it's
So,
true.
but we're all connected, which I do believe. I think we're all connected more so than we would think, but not as much as we used to be.
Yeah, in our neighborhoods, we used to go to the neighbor and ask for a cup of sugar. I don't even know who my neighbor is anymore.
So you're saying like technology has made us grow further apart.
In a way, I do think that, because we're all global in the sense, it seems like a lot of us are global now, right?
Right.
With our connections, and we talk to them through Skype and Zoom and all these. But
Yeah.
we're not actually getting out of our house and going and talking to our neighbor who lives right next door to us anymore, like we used to. Or
Yeah. That's funny. I haven't talked to him. When my neighbor first moved in, I did the thing. I made some egg rolls and brought them over, and kind of welcomed them. But I haven't really talked to them other than the occasional wave, in the driveway. But yeah, it is. I think it's different. It's not like I don't get out and go to these LinkedIn locals and actually do networking. But so from that aspect, you can't have one without the other. You can't have just digital without real in-person communication and connection. But at the same time, I think it's allowing you and I to connect, and otherwise that wouldn't be possible. So in a way, we've kind of, we grew into big cities, and people still networking just by being together, to now where we can actually network across the world. And so we do feel more disconnected in a way, but in a way we're actually connecting more with like-minded individuals.
Exactly, like-minded, because I may not.
So we're going back to we're almost like we're going back full circle to our tribal days, where we had tribes of like 30, 40 people, and your sense of worth was your contribution to the group. So we're almost kind of getting back to that, but through the internet, we're allowing people to find their tribe and find their voice, which is pretty cool. Hey, Brian just joined in.
Totally agree with you on that one.
But yeah, I do see what you're saying, how we're not as connected as we used to be. But
we're not. But I try.
I do like your view that we should just all, become closer together, become more connected, and be nicer to one another.
Speaking of being nicer, I got a tip for all your people out there who travel.
Okay, let's hear it.
When you go to that fancy restaurant and you're not going to eat that whole meal, and you're in a city where there's a lot of homeless people, this is one thing I do, and I think people should do. And it's carried me well when I'm in cities. Split your meal. I call it the halvesy. And when you're done, go out and give it to someone. Because honestly, you go to these restaurants when you're traveling, like we do for business, I'm never going to eat a 32-ounce steak, but somebody wants me to order it, right?
Yeah.
So let's stick it in a box and then go give it to the guy out there. Just an idea. Just there's for my world, giving back to the world. I do that quite a bit. So the guys in Vegas love me. They're
the little
like,
things.
wow, you went to Ruth Chris. Yeah, I did.
Little things that help. What's Ruth Chris?
Oh, come on now. That's like the best steakhouse in the world. The butter knife, or whatever they call it, the sizzling steak. Oh,
you're gonna have to take me out for a business lunch in Vegas one of these times.
Oh, that would be fun. We could whoop it up. Hey, if you're going to the IMTS show, that's another place that we could talk. Or if you're going to PAC Expo, there's another great one too.
Oh, PAC Expo, that sounds fun.
Yeah. Hey, Brian, how's it going?
I got dressed for this, so it better be good.
It's really good. You joined in at the perfect time. We just kind of talked about a lot of industry stuff, and then started talking a little bit more about Christine and her family life and her kids, and then you joined in.
All I heard is there's another great one, and I figured you were talking about me, so I didn't want to interrupt.
Oh, most definitely, you are a great one. Hence why we're going to partner, and I like it.
Exactly.
And I met you, Zach, because of
and Brian introduced us. So he said he wanted a pod crash, a cast.
He did. So what are you going to crash us with? what do you want to pontificate or ask us?
No, I just figured I'd join in and crash the party. I figured it'd be fun.
Oh my gosh, that's too funny. We're all in different locations.
Why don't you have your glasses on? And how come there's no video?
Because that would require me to shower.
I swear to God, it's because you don't wear clothes when you work at home.
No, I do, but I look like a red-faced, unshowered lady. We don't want to see me right now. My hair is up.
Okay.
You know, I have to
I'm looking
say,
a little frightening.
you know, it wasn't bad. It actually allowed me to focus more on the audio of what you were saying than what your body language was.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes my voice is mesmerizing. No, I'm just kidding.
I feel bad
Sorry,
for
I'm a bit of a card. I can't help it. It's
I
fun.
feel bad for ever who watching the YouTube version of the podcast, just looking at me for an hour.
Yeah, probably. But they get to look at the head in front of blinds.
Yeah. And
of
my
our
reaction
photo.
to what you're saying, me nodding, and I guess you're looking at me too, right?
I am looking at you.
I bet that's more engaging
The
than
head in
just
front of blind.
looking at black. I guess no, you know, without a video, then it's just a normal phone call like back in the day
I know, because I'm old enough to remember those. Totally.
when you would have to spin the dial.
She probably remembers like I do.
Look, my
Back
mom.
with like the
Go
the
ahead.
2 tin cans and a string.
Well,
That's what
that
kids
too.
used to play with. They didn't get to play with cell phones like these little entitled babies. Like Zach grew up playing with an iPhone, I'm sure.
Oh my gosh.
Is that true, Zach?
Oh.
I'm not that young, man. My first phone was a
Okay.
flip phone, but
What was your first participation ribbon for? Since we bring the generational differences
D-ball.
into this, I don't think Zach's a typical millennial because I watched some of his outgoing stuff that he tried to do on SCADA system videos and stuff like that. But he is a millennial regardless. So when did you get your first participation trophy that you didn't do anything for except for breathe? Do you remember?
yeah, it was definitely T-ball. I mean, everyone got a trophy. Everyone on
How did
every.
you feel about that?
It wasn't until actually not like minors that they introduced a hierarchy of playoffs, and I have to say, man, it got intense, you know, because then it's like, oh, you had to deal with the fact that you weren't first, your team wasn't number one, you know, and there was actually league trophies, so. You know, and the first one was taller, and then the second one was smaller, and then the third one was like a little baby trophy. So yeah, I guess from all the way from 5 till 9, it's just pure participation trophies.
Yeah, not for us. You know what the losing team had to do? Run laps.
Here, I found glasses.
Hey!
I found glasses, but my face is red. Like I said, not showered. So here you go, people. That's it. I'm here.
Awesome, thank you
I knew
for
we could
joining.
peer pressure her into it.
I can't even
I'm still
see
going to stay
any
here
of
in the
you.
dark.
Brian, how would you describe Christine Frank?
She's frankly speaking. Hashtag speak frankly. She tells the truth. She doesn't tell the truth quite like I do, but she will still tell people the truth. I've seen it a little bit.
That's because
like
I have
Kevin,
a filter between my mouth and my ears.
Well, I have one, but I think it does more damage to use it than not. For example, the plant manager that showed up at the interview late, I think we all saw that this week, Kevin, shows up at the interview late and then complains that they didn't allow him to properly interview, and he turned around and he walked out of the interview. And I'm like, okay, well, show up on time. It's not that tough to do. Just quit making excuses.
We all need encouragement.
I gave him some feedback on how he can not do that. Next time, give yourself an hour. You're unemployed. What, did he have a busy meeting? He got caught up in traffic because he stayed late?
I don't know where
Come on. You're like, oh my God. Zach will edit it all out anyway.
Are you saying you're using your last name like you give it to them frankly?
Definitely. So frankly speaking, or let's be frank. I love it. No pun intended. It's awesome.
Brian didn't come up with that. That's actually a hashtag you use.
I do.
Do you make
can find me on
LinkedIn videos?
No, because do you see I'm putting these glasses on? I don't usually like to have anyone to see me.
That's what I do. I
You
wear
could be the
I wear
movie
glasses.
Be the movie star of LinkedIn videos.
Yeah, I don't know, guys. So there's I know your LinkedIn family, there's a lot of them that do it. I don't have green hair. And she's cute as heck, right? Funny and cute and articulate. But I don't have green hair. And then the other one has purple hair. She's really funny too. She's always doing it in her car, which is always interesting. And then there's one
We
other
could change that.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's a
I
lot
did
of
one video and I
LinkedIn
pulled it
creators.
down.
Oh,
So
you did one?
Yeah, one.
Interesting. This is the first time I've actually heard someone post their first LinkedIn video and not be like, kind of have it be a good thing where they like got over some fear and kept doing it. Why do you think you pulled it down?
Rah.
So you got over the fear of posting it, but then what about it did you not like? Like, did someone say something, or how long did it take to delete?
It wasn't that I didn't. It had terrible audio on it, and it sounded like I had filmed it in my bathroom with the fan
Oh.
on. So I was like, nah, I'm not going to leave that up. But it was me ranting about LinkedIn taking away our access to data. And I got really upset. And I said, LinkedIn, it's my data. You don't own it. Give it back. And that's all I said on the video. And the reason why is because they went through a glitch. Gosh, I don't know. It was probably 3 months ago, something like that, 4 months. Maybe it's 6 months. And they weren't allowing you to see how many people looked at your videos. Not that I judge any of that or any of your posts, but it was giving me an indication of what was working from a post position.
Right.
So for instance, I've learned if I post from my heart, if I post quite frankly, and I'm also kind of give words of wisdom or advice, those rank up a lot higher than me ranting about something, right? Or me just throwing a story over the wall because I liked it. If I don't explain why, you don't get a lot of interaction from it. So I was using that information to really process and try to figure out what posts worked, what didn't, and was testing the waters. And I've had posts where there's been 45,000 people looking at it. Now, engineers don't say they like it or not or reply, but you know that you're getting your impression through it, right?
Yeah. That's impressive.
Versus, yeah, in other areas.
No
So that's
pun
why I
intended.
was doing it.
Impression
duh.
impressive.
I didn't know that there were 45,000 of those poor souls, lost souls in the U.S. or in the
Oh
world.
my gosh. Yes, there are. And the
I
ones
put my
that
engineering glasses on. They're missing an earpiece.
That's
There.
funny.
Can I just say that Brian looks like, gosh, what was that? I don't even know, but he's in like a shadow basically and looks super sketch.
Like
all the lights
man
are
from
off.
the X-Files.
He's in the very bottom of the webcam frame. It's like all pointed up at the window. Gosh, I was gonna say like there's a movie of a serial killer in the Bay Area. Not the Night Stalker, but forget.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay, maybe not that bad. That was an exaggeration.
Just here, let me change my name to Brian Robert Weed because serial killers all have 3 names. John Wilkes, or no, it's assassins do.
Oh my
So
gosh.
Brian,
Assassins have 3 names.
so Christine,
I'm just gonna call you the Weed Man. That's all I know.
I find that
So that's going to be my hashtag. I'm going to be the Weed Man.
Everybody needs one.
I'll have to hit you up
like
after
And I'm
the
going
show.
to give the
Brian.
straight dope. I mean,
That should be your hashtag, Brian.
I'm going to go for it. I'm going to embrace LinkedIn. I'm going to be positive, encouraging.
You are? You're like and sarcastic.
Well, it doesn't help people to be rah-rah.
Yeah.
We can bitch about a big, evil corporate America being bastards and not having compassion for the employees. Step on the other side of it for about 2 months and find out how fragile a business is to run. Find out what happens when somebody doesn't show up for work.
Yeah.
Just try it for a couple weeks and then see, and then go back and say, okay, how come employees can't show up on time?
Personal responsibility. That's why. I agree with you on that one. I mean, people need to have personal responsibility, but they also have to feel needed, wanted, and liked in order to feel validated or I mean that
Yes.
I get what you're saying.
We feel you need to show up on time. We would like you to show up on time, and you'll be wanted back tomorrow if you show up on time today. And you'll get a paycheck for it.
Totally.
All 3. Does that kind of narrow it down to what needs to happen here for people? We need you to show up on time. We want you to show up on time. We like you when you show up on time. And when we don't, we become the big evil bastards and we shit can you.
I don't even need to do my job. You guys are just taking care of it for me.
I don't even know where this is going, but that's
No,
okay.
it's funny because Brian, you're coming at it from the business perspective. Like it's kind of wrong to just ghost a job. But Christine, you're coming from the perspective that like employers wouldn't have to worry about their employees leaving if they were engaged and felt cared about and actually had a vision outside of just making money that they felt connected with. So then that wouldn't actually be an issue. So.
Okay, but there's no room on the balance sheet for feelings. That is a hard and fast rule.
But at the same time, I don't work just to work. I work for a lifestyle and to support my family. And I want to do something that I feel good about at the end of the day, right? I want to do something that gives back to that community that I'm working with. So I think there's a balance, right, between feelings and how you feel in your position.
According to my hypnotherapy training years ago, all feelings are useful if they come from a valid source. Because they drive everything. Feelings are there, like the temperature light in your car. When it's the dummy light, they call it, when it shows up and says that your engine's overheating, that's actually helpful because now you know there's a problem you need to take care of. But what I see on some of the social media platforms is there's a tendency to be rah-rah in two rose-colored glasses and get behind people in their one-sided story pity party. And I just have to go, I don't think I could do that. I might try it for a week and see what happens. Should we do an experiment?
Or do you try what for a week?
Be nice and rah-rah and just get behind everybody's bullshit and see how much popularity I gain.
You probably won't. So, or you will because you'll do that. Okay.
You will, and you'll prove your point. But Brian, why are you so disenfranchised? What happened? Where's this coming from?
I think it was that time in the woods. No, I'm kidding. That'd be horrible. I'm not disenfranchised. I think I'm just more of a realist, and I see the train coming, and I see the train wreck, and I don't really think people are helped when they get validated for invalid reasons. You can apply that to people troubleshooting control systems too. You can stand around and tell everybody, "Oh, great job, you're working really hard." I got home at 3:00 in the morning. I was on the phone with Christine yesterday, I think, and I said, "Hey, did Boeing call when we were on the phone?" I don't know if they did or not, but I had to go to Boeing, and I get there, and guess what the main problem was that they had with their machine? The PLC was in program mode. Somebody turned the key switch to program.
I was just going to say, turn the key. But at the same time, it's kind of funny. So I would have made.
Oh, I thought it was really funny when I had to drive 4 hours at 8:00 last night to get there.
Well, maybe you should have been like an IT guy and said, "Please plug it in and check the power." I mean, I don't know.
First of all, Christine, that was racist.
So maybe you made the mistake to ask him, "Did you check the key?" A lesson learned, right? He'll never do that again.
They replaced the Panel View Plus. There would be no reason to look at the PLC key.
I think it's funny that Christine knows.
Look at that. You've been there, haven't you?
Oh, look, I've been on more machines than I can count, hanging on articulated cranes over slurry ponds of paper to find out that the guy didn't know how to wire the sensor right, and it was loose, and I'm fixing it for him. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, lesson learned. That's funny.
That's how I got so disenfranchised, by the way. It's that.
I guess. Okay, I know we're just talking now, guys.
Yeah. Well, this is still on the air though, but we are.
Oh my gosh, is it really? Wow.
Well, I'm not live, but this is good content.
I keep trying to get them to do them live, so we can really crank it up a notch.
But don't filter yourselves to talk about whatever you would normally talk about.
Did he really say don't filter yourself to me?
I don't think you filter anyways. I'm not filtering.
I filter every day.
I don't. Oh wow. You know how your parents always said, you know, you said to your parents when you're a kid, you don't know anything to your parents, and they said, just you wait, you'll learn. That's kind of what's happening here.
Yeah,
I feel like,
I've figured that out for myself now.
oh my gosh, yeah, that's funny. But yeah, control systems can be quite funny. I don't know how many times back in the field bus days, not that I want to talk shop anymore, but back in the field bus days where people didn't know how to wire things up properly, and I'd fly all the way out there and they'd say, yeah, the network keeps dropping down. And I'm like, what have you guys done? And they're like, yeah, we wired it up. And I go, give me a voltmeter. And I walk out there and find out they got power on both sides. I think you got a ground loop there. Oh, shoot, didn't know that. Unplug that wire. Been there, done that.
Yeah.
Isn't a ground loop when a plane crashes because it didn't go all the way around?
I don't know. Okay, so I don't know where we're going.
The stuff that we got to see, I don't think Zach got to see as much of it because he was Mr. Skata dude.
Ground loop.
Did you work on hardware side on I/O and field wiring ever, Zach?
Of course, yeah. I mean, I didn't really get into any extensive bus networks. I was working on a project that had a large Profi bus network before I quit, but you know, I mean, obviously, like field wiring for water distribution, like wells, booster stations, reservoirs, but not like super crazy. You know, maybe a treatment plant here or there, but all that stuff's pretty simple. You know,
No 480 volt or anything.
no.
You don't want to do that, anyways.
Why?
Oh my gosh. No, I'm just thinking of school. I'm having flashbacks right now.
Oh, because Brian is saying that I haven't seen a lot of this stuff, and yeah, you're right. You know, like I still like serial networks. I really don't like them that much. You know, I'm not gonna lie. Have I had to work on them? Yeah, but
hence why people are getting away from them, right?
Yeah.
What's wrong with serial networks? CAN bus is a serial network.
We don't.
Well, as long as you don't
that
call it
bad.
serial.
Yeah.
It just as long as it's you become accustomed to things working pretty seamlessly, like plug and play. That's kind of what we're used to. So to go back from that is frustrating. You know what I'm saying?
I started with ArcNet.
Oh gosh.
So it's got easier for you.
Nobody used that. But anyways.
I mean,
nobody used any of this. Nobody used any of the shit that I used. And we have one customer in Eastern Washington still uses Opto 22.
I like those guys. Shout out to one of my friends on that one. It was a nightmare, but their new system that they just came out with, their new controller is freaking amazing. And by the way, there's ignition on it too, so it's pretty cool.
The Groove.
Yeah, the Groove.
The Groove.
Oh my gosh! And those guys are a talented team over there.
They have a cool marketing department too.
Yeah, they do, and they're really good people. And
what do you like? Do you like that they're good people? What else do you like about it? For them?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that controller having that little touchscreen built into it, the way that they put it in there with the gateway built in as well for connectivity, so you can do IoT type of installs. It's cool. It's pretty neat, and it's more advanced than the stuff that you're talking about back in the day, right? Which looked like ice cube relays that plugged into a box.
Gosh.
Well, we're using the little more modern stuff. They're using the G4 Snap product, but yeah, and they use ignition on it.
It's a really nice company, though. They really care about their employees.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys go to work every day happy.
That's
well,
good.
not every day, but they
that's because they're unhappy with their wives. Let's not mince words here. The secret to a happy employee is to have a real bitchy wife at home.
No, that is not
happy to have a happy wife at home.
Oh my god! Oh wow, we're going off into like deep Never land. I don't know. No, I don't know. Guys, I work with guys all day long, and they tell me all their woos and woes. But I'll tell you, the happiest guys at work are the ones that are happy at home.
Yeah, because they're single.
No, they're not. They're married and they have kids, but they have a good relationship with their spouse. Now, we're not going to go into that, but I think we have a different view on, glass half full, glass half empty. Optimism.
Brian.
Realism.
Optimistic. I like to be that.
Brian, how long have you been a fan of ignition?
2 years,
2 years?
3 years, I think.
That's pretty good.
And I had a pretty significant run at all the other junk that's out there. Shout out to Wonderware, hashtag Rockwell Factory Talk to You SE. Thank you for ruining hours of my life when your shitty software platform crashes. Yeah, no, it sucks. Shout out to iFix. iFix wasn't as bad, but when you do iFix to a control logics and you have to use that IGS and screw around with the tags, Rockwell has the advantage there.
Okay.
So I think that Ignition really overcame a lot of the hurdles that the old platforms were stuck with. But I know that they were also stuck with those because of the whole migration pattern and the legacy and trying to keep it backwards compatible for folks. And I think Ignition might run into that pretty soon. I think Ignition will run into a limitation where they're going to have such a large installed base that they can't just be backwards compatible forever. And they have to keep going with that outdated technology. As far as I'm concerned, Factory Talk View SE isn't any better than iFix DMAX was back in 1996. Same with Illusion. They just took the same foundation, and over the years, they haven't been able to break free from that. I think GE came out with an HTML5 SCADA system, but I don't know if they launched it.
Okay. Yeah, I find that interesting because I was pretty early in adopting Ignition. I want to say like in 2012 is when I really started pushing it hard. So that's, 5-6 years now. And
When did they come out?
Ignition came out in 2010. Inductive automation came out with factory PMI in like 06, 07. So there were still earlier adopters than me. Like Kyle Chase had been doing it since 07, 08. So, but so I was kind of a still really early adopter. I would still say you're an early adopter. They're still in a really huge growth phase right now as far as adoptions. But because I'm so young and because of the things that I've seen, like what you're talking about, how the backwards compatibility kind of it slows down your innovation. I've kind of noticed that with Inductive. I'm not going to lie. I've kind of seen over the past few years, I've kind of felt like their rate of innovation has slowed down. And when they announced Ignition version 8, was still Java, still fully backwards compliant. I was kind of under the impression they would start from scratch. Really, that's what I hoped for Ignition 8, but it's still fully based on Java, and the new mobile HTML5, which was the big deal about it, is just a module. It may still be really awesome, but there's things left to be desired. Let's just put it that way. So it's funny that you say that you see that coming, and I say I kind of already seen that here. And then further confirm. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still love Ignition
because I saw it with all the others. So I just think it's something that any organization is going to face.
Right.
You pick a direction, you go with it, and then somebody's going to have to come along some way and do something better.
Right. So I'd say they're still the best in the game, but I'd say the opportunity for someone else to come up with something completely new and different, more affordable, disruptive, and then kind of start that whole wave over again.
Did you talk to Christine about your walker down in Texas?
I did a little bit, yeah.
Okay.
I said that they would probably be interested in learning more about their technology.
Yeah, that was one that I saw because I know of his background and what he does with the ERP system. That when Christine and I started talking, I figured that'd be a good fit.
Thanks, man. Do you know Walker from outside of my relationship with him, or?
No, I just started stalking him on LinkedIn a little bit.
Okay.
Is Walker a person or a company?
He's a Texas Ranger, actually.
Well, I knew that.
He is actually.
I don't think we were talking about that one.
That's actually him, but that was a secret.
Walker Reynolds is the owner of Intellic Integration, which is a system integrator in Dallas, Texas.
I think I've met them before.
Oh, cool. Yeah. That's really, if you haven't met them, you might have seen some of their stuff on LinkedIn. I'm doing all their marketing efforts, and this podcast is just one of those marketing efforts. And it's kind of weird because, it's not even like the Intellic podcast. It's like we're partnered in a way that, you know, I guess I'm kind of doing business development for them right now by putting this podcast out there, talking with you, making connections, kind of really just growing the industry and seeing where they want to go. Cause like, you know, I started at the beginning where, you know, we're just turning wells and turning, you know, if they go from running in hand to having some form of automation, they're happy. But that is becoming commoditized. It's really easy. And things are already at a base level of automation. Now we need to take that the next step. So that's where they're focusing on things like predictive maintenance. So it's just a natural evolution of the industry, I think. And I just want to be at the forefront of that industry.
Yeah, absolutely. No different than Brian and I were doing back in the day with field buses and networks. Just
Did you
saying.
guys know each other from further back, or?
I don't know.
I think it's a past life, maybe. Maybe
No.
distant cousins. No.
I don't know about that, but we do run in the same circles, which is interesting, right? So, especially when you're like one of the few females in this industry, people kind of like, you know, stalk you and ask you to marry them. No, I'm just kidding. I do get a marriage proposal about every 2 months from somebody over.
Marriage proposal.
It actually cracks me up. Who would try to date someone through LinkedIn? I don't really know, but apparently over in the eastern side of Europe, they like that. So,
all right, guys, I'm gonna wrap up this episode of the podcast.
Great.
You guys can still stay. Well, we can talk after, or you guys can stay. But I'm gonna wrap it up for the guests here. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the Zack Scriven podcast. Christine, what are your closing final words for the audience? Thank you for being on the show too, by the way.
Yeah, my closing words would be thank you so much for having me here today. And if there's nothing I learned other than how to turn my camera on and wear sunglasses, I don't know. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. Oh yeah, I was gonna say that.
I guess the closing thing is, you know, there's a lot of opportunity out in the industry right now, and I've really appreciated you taking the time to have that conversation with me. And I'm looking forward to working with you and you too, Brian, and others in the industry to really help scope out the market a little deeper and wider and bring value. So there you go.
Thank you. Yeah, I forgot about that you were uncomfortable on video, but you're so nice enough to let me record you, and now I get the honor of...
Which is frightening. Because I have no makeup on and my hair looks like, you know, what in a basket. So.
I feel honored to be able to help pull you outside of your comfort zone a little bit. So thank you for that. And thank you for being on the show. Brian, thanks for jumping in. And thank you guys for listening. We'll see you guys in the next episode of the podcast. Peace out.
Thank you. Bye-bye.